Then let's begin. In 2011, my maternal grandmother had developed dementia. This meant she would start to remember less and less about herself. It began with the small things like, where did I park my car, or have I eaten breakfast today? But eventually, one night, my grandmother woke up in a state of panic. She couldn't remember who my mother was, the woman she'd given birth to. But even more shocking, she couldn't remember herself. According to mayoclinic.org, quote, dementia isn't a specific disease, but instead describes a group of symptoms affecting memory, thinking, and social abilities severely enough to interfere with daily functioning, end quote. There are many types of dementia. Alzheimer's, which is the most common type, accounts for 60% of all dementias. Other types include vascular, Lewy body, Huntington's, Parkinson's, and frontotemporal lobe dementias. According to medicalnewstoday.com, there are currently 8 million Americans experiencing dementia. Due to the aging of the baby boom generation, this number is expected to grow to 25 million by the year 2050. The annual cost of caring for these patients will be $700 billion. But bigger still is the emotional toll that dementia can have on patients and their family members. And for Christians, dementia raises deep spiritual questions about who we are when we have forgotten ourselves. In this speech, I will be giving you a background into Alzheimer's dementia. Then next, I will be giving you practical ways to help patients and their caregivers. And lastly, I'll be going over the spiritual aspects and implications of dementia. My purpose in speaking with you today is to give you hope. Not necessarily a hope that depends on finding a cure, but a hope that depends on remembering God. I would like to begin with a brief tutorial on dementia using facts from the book The Forgetting by David Shank. The brain is the size of 2 adult fists, weighs 3 pounds, and consists of 1 billion nerve cells linked in 100 trillion separate pathways. When a child is born, you can compare these pathways to a house that has been wired for electricity and phone, but none of these wires have been yet insulated. As a child grows and matures, various areas of the brain become insulated with a myelin sheath and are brought online. And the last area to be brought online is the hippocampus, which has the most to do with making memories. This is why children generally don't have many memories before the age of 3. With Alzheimer's and other types of dementia, these electronic pathways become blocked with plaques and tangles. One spot of plaque or tangle neuron leads to another, like a pileup of cars after a traffic accident, and the working system of the brain begins to unravel. Interestingly, in almost the reverse order of how the systems were brought online. The first area to be affected is the hippocampus, which is located in the temporal lobe on the sides of your head near your ears. Long-term memories still exist, but the ability to make new memories, like where you put your keys or what you talked about 5 minutes ago, is compromised. From there, plaques and tangles spread to the amygdala, which is the area of the brain that affects fear and anger. From there, they go from the temporal lobe, which affects memory, to the parietal lobe, which affects touch, pain, and spatial awareness. The last area to be affected is the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe assists in retrieving memories and also acts as a filter, keeping us from doing and saying whatever comes to our mind. Dementia cannot be definitively diagnosed without a brain biopsy, but an MRI can show a shrinking hippocampus. Dementia is usually diagnosed by a series of simple memory tests, the most common being the clock test, where a patient is asked to draw a clock face and hands to indicate certain times. A simple test like this can actually identify 9 out of 10 cases of dementia. There are only 5% of Alzheimer's is caused by a defect in a single gene. Other dementias are caused by multiple factors, and the process is still not understood. The most common risk factor is age. If you live long enough, you have a high probability of developing dementia of some kind. There is currently no cure for dementia, but scientists and doctors are working very hard to find a cure or a vaccine. But what can we do to help? How can we give practical assistance? This leads me to my second point, what we can do to help. The most important thing we can do in dealing with dementia is understanding what's going on with the people that have it. It's way more complex than simple memory loss. A person with dementia first loses their sense of smell, according to Alzheimer's.net, making foods that were once loved be rejected. And according to dementia care expert Teepa Snow, eyesight is also majorly affected. A person with dementia slowly loses their peripheral vision until they can only see what's straight ahead of them. Next, depth perception is lost, and it makes it impossible for them to distinguish between a picture and real life. By understanding what's going on with them, family members and caregivers can be more graceful in their approach. Another important tool is learning how to talk to dementia patients. Many people have a fear of talking to them because it may be a loved one and it's tough to see what they're going through. A common mistake that is made is asking questions that start with, "Do you remember?" This makes conversations seem like quizzes and can cause major stress and concern for the patient. Instead, ask them to tell you about something from their early life, such as their wedding or their first job. The earlier the memory was made, the easier it will be for them to access it. And although the elderly deserve to be treated with respect, young children and people living with dementia have much in common. According to Tom and Karen Brenner, authors of You Say Goodbye and We Say Hello, the Montessori Method for Positive Dementia Care, say, quote, "The lives of children and the lives of people living with dementia intersect at the crossroads of wonder. People with dementia have lost a lot, but they still have their curiosity, their ability to feel wonder," end quote. Dementia patients enjoy typical children's activities, such as arts and crafts, singing, dancing, and even having picture books read to them. It's a good idea to have a plan when visiting. Bring a book or even a jar of Play-Doh. It's simple things like this that can make a dementia patient's day that much better. We can also give assistance to the caregivers. Dr. Benjamin Mass says, quote, "At some point, caregivers will admit that they feel absolutely alone, as if no one understands what they're going through," end quote. They need help with practical things, such as meals, house cleaning, and respite care. But they also need personal visits and conversation. They need prayer and encouragement. But is there anything encouraging we can say to those dealing with neurological decline? This leads me to my final point, the spiritual implications of dementia. Who are we when we have forgotten ourselves? We are the children of God, made in His image. We are His most precious creation. Although we may think we are losing significance, God is holding on to us. Dr. Benjamin Mass says, quote, "When we have nothing left to offer others, we still have value to God, and nothing, not even dementia, can change that." And in conclusion, in a poll made by the Marist Institute in 2011, dementia is the most feared diagnosis, even topping cancer. Most cancers can be treated or even cured, but there's no curing or delaying the process of dementia. But we should not give in to fear, but instead trust that the Lord has a perfect plan for each and every one of us, because nothing, not even dementia, can separate us from Him. Romans 8:38 says, quote, "For I am convinced that nothing can separate us from the love of God, neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither our fears for today nor our worries about tomorrow. Not even the powers of hell can separate us from God's love," end quote. That night when my grandmother woke up in a state of panic and was literally asking, "Who am I?" my mother didn't know what to do. Finally, in desperation, she asked, "Do you know who God is?" And my grandmother said, "Yes, I know Him." And she began to pray, "Lord, help me." The song "Who Am I" by Casting Crowns says, quote, "I am a flower quickly fading, here today and gone tomorrow, a wave tossed on the ocean, a vapor in the wind. Still, you hear me when I'm calling, you catch me when I'm falling, and you've told me who I am. I am yours." Thank you. Thank you for judging. Thank you for judging.